at this stage. And joining us on the other side of the break, we're going to be joined by Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw. There she is from Bangalore. Good morning, Ms. Shaw. Going into just a short break, and it's fantastic to have you join our panel. We've been saying it's a political, we've been saying it's a pre-election budget. I'd like to know your thoughts on that. And if there's somebody who I truly believe is, and I've said this to Kiran quite directly, she never ever is worried about taking on politicians. Or very often it's said that people from the corporate world, they hedge their bets, they say something and don't say much. I can tell you, because we get into the political economy debate, Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw is not someone to pull her punches. Ms. Shaw, I look forward to talking to you back in 2 minutes with you on this Budget Day Live. And joining us on Budget Day Live, Kenneth Curtis is former VC Goldman Sachs, founding partner of Themes Investment. He's joining us from Singapore. Good morning, Mr. Curtis. My first question is to Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw, Chairman and Managing Director of Biocon. Ms. Shaw, what would worry you in a pre-election budget?
Well, Arnab, as we all know, this is going to be a very tough budget, because I think all eyes are on Mr. Chidambaram to see how good a gymnast he is. I think, he needs to balance austerity with growth. And I think if you look at the economic survey, I think there are huge challenges. We have to see how to cut back on subsidies and, derive some benefits from revenues. And I think that's where the challenge is. And on top of that, if you look at some of the forecasts in the economic survey, especially on the agricultural sector, it doesn't look good. Your food output is expected to decline from 260 million tons to 250 million tons. You need to create jobs. You need to create employment. And I think, to me, the real challenge is how do you make sure that you focus on deregulation, disinvestment, and of course development of infrastructure. These are going to be very critical. So where are you going to find the money from? And as someone said, how do we stop this capital outflow and make sure that there are strong growth drivers to attract capital back into the country? At the same time, you've got to then see where are you going to raise those extra amounts from. I personally won't be surprised if there is going to be some surcharge levied on the rich. And I also believe that we are going to see MAT increase to 20% as it is being forecast. I see that, I wouldn't be surprised if, excise duty increases on a large number of luxury and consumer goods. Otherwise, I don't see how he is going to provision for these large looming subsidies. One thing that really worries me, Arnab, is that I hope there is good provisioning done, because we are looking at 100,000 crore worth of oil and fertilizer subsidies. Is it going to be a now you see it, now you don't kind of budget? Are you going to see a lot of off-balance sheet items? I don't know. So let's see what Mr. Chidambaram does. I mean, he's a very prudent and pragmatic finance minister. So I hope he's going to have some innovative solutions.
Well, I think you've laid it out quite well. I'd also like to welcome at this stage Nainalal Kidwai, the president of FICCI and the head of HSBC India. Ms. Kidwai, good morning. I hope you can hear me. Thank you for joining our panel. I put that question to Kenneth Curtis before I come to Nainalal Kidwai. You heard Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw describe the finance minister's job as that of a gymnast. I think she actually described the job of a trapeze artist. Do you think he'll come out unscathed of the acrobatics that the country and perhaps the world economy expects out of him?
Well, as we look at things from Asia and from the world economy, I think the number one challenge is for the finance minister to express a lot of optimism that India can pick up these challenges and can move ahead. There's been a lot of negative views about India, in India, and especially around the world in the last couple of years, and I think we have to turn that around. If we're going to turn around the outflow of direct foreign investment, because that's what's been happening over the last couple of years, that foreign investors have been reducing their commitment to India, which has made it much more complicated to finance the current account deficit, as India's inflation rate has and lack of progress on infrastructure has undermined India's competitive position. International investors have been sort of standing back, particularly direct people who are making big commitments in the direct investment side. So I think the Prime Minister has to come out, first of all, with an optimistic view of India's future, and secondly, with a realistic budget that can help us move ahead step by step. And obviously people understand that there are elections coming up soon in 2014, and so that will also cover the budget. But he's got to be able to put in place in the budget measures that will help us believe that inflation will come down further, which then will give us more belief that the central bank will be cutting rates. He has to really give us some targets that are realistic on the budget deficit and how it can come down progressively from where it was. Remember, last year we overshot the budget deficit. Thirdly, we need some real belief that there's going to be progress on infrastructure, that there's going to be a more complete embrace of deregulation, which is difficult on the eve of, as we run up to an election, but nevertheless necessary. I think if we can see some of those big steps ahead, then from the international perspective, I think there will be the building of some new optimism and a willingness to see if people shouldn't be putting money back into India again. So I think that's really important. Then there, of course, are all the other issues that we've just heard about, the subsidies, the excise tax, do we move to a GST, what do we do on the social side to balance this rich and poor issue, building up skills so that we can move to have more growth driven by the manufacturing sector, because after all, India is not in a vacuum, it's competing globally with China and everyone else. So the skill level in the manufacturing sector also has to be constantly improved. So there are some of the issues as we look at this from the global perspective, I think, that are really important for the finance minister to address tomorrow.
Well, thanks for that very comprehensive perspective. Kenneth Curtis from Singapore, thank you very much. Nenalal Kudwai, the first question to you is from Navika Kumar. Yes, Navika.
Nana, good morning. You heard Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw there saying that the finance minister is expected to be a gymnast this year to try and balance all the issues that he has at hand. But the real issue is he's got his expenditure list. Where is he going to get his revenues from? How is he going to reverse the capital outflows? How is he going to kickstart investment in India to cater to the 10 million jobs that are required on an annual basis? What do you expect the finance minister to do on all of these fronts?
कुछ नहीं सुनाई दे.
Ms. Kidwai?
Well, I'm sorry. I think there is a audio line problem there with Nenalal Kidwai. The moment we get it sorted out, I'll come back on it. But I think the parliamentarians have to leave in 10 minutes. So before I let them go, I want your comment, Mr. Mungekar, and first to you and then to Piyush, on the very tall order that has been presented here by Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw. She's not wrong.
But the one important question is subsidies. If we could manage prudently, okay, that he has to find out the ways. We should be able to get better results even by reducing the subsidies by 50%. That he has to find out the ways. Second point is most important.
No, but he has not been able to find that way.
No, for example, direct cash transfer at least to some extent.
It is for 5,000 crores worth of
fuel subsidies, for example. They will be definitely able to manage, and fuel subsidies will be definitely able to manage. So far diesel subsidy is concerned. Fertilizer subsidy.
No, you are saying a cut in subsidies by 50%? Where?
No, not. My point is
if they become more efficient.
Absolutely.
But why they can't become more efficient overnight?
No, but that is what he has to get some plan. You know, in the sense, for example.
Arnab, in the first place, my concern has always been budgets are made, but they're not implemented well. What Mungekar ji is saying is good. We need far better implementation. But at the bigger picture, I think for the next 1 year, we are in a crisis type of situation with only 7 months imports through our forex reserves. I think we need to address the low-hanging fruits first. In the low-hanging fruits, I personally believe it's very important we generate investor sentiment.
Sure.
We once again get the confidence back by setting right the three big problems. One is the tax uncertainty. So forget creating 10 million jobs. Right now we have a concern of losing 1 million jobs.
Yeah.
With all the multinationals like Nokia being raided, Shell being given $1 billion of unreasonable tax demands, a number of BPO and ITES operations, Microsoft being told that whatever you are spending here is going to be taxed because Microsoft makes worldwide profit.
But the opposition has a role to play on the GST.
Not at all. The tax administration needs to be human. They need to be practical.
GST could help
Well, as I earlier told you, Navika, the GST we are ready to support. They need to address 2 or 3 basic issues on the states' rights. They also need to address one more issue, may I highlight to you and for your viewers.
No, but what is your
GST
position?
will lead to the rich man's goods becoming cheaper and the poor man's goods becoming expensive. Does this government want to do that? I don't think they want to, because they're not giving us
Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw back.
For 9 months.
Kiran, do you think, 1 second, Kiran, do you think this is going anywhere? You know, this, we constantly talk about subsidies, but we don't have the opposition party taking any firm position.
On what? I have a position on every issue.
You don't have the position on the 1 minute. You don't have a position on the fiscal implications of a food subsidy bill. You know what it will impact.
It's going to cost 2 lakh crores.
Yeah, but you cannot oppose it. You cannot oppose it due to political ramifications. My question, before I go back to Kiran, I think I have the line back with Naina. Naina Lal Kidwai, if you can hear me now, the big debate that's going on is about prudence versus populism. We all want to be prudent. But political parties cannot afford to be prudent beyond a point in a pre-election year. I wonder how an industry body like yours and how you personally look upon this challenge.
Yeah, I think it's important to bear in mind that the very prudence which we are seeking here, which is that the fiscal deficit be brought under control, and now increasingly the CAD, the current account deficit, is also part of the twin deficit argument that needs to be contained, that if we do not do something about this today, we will not have funds in order to continue any program tomorrow, and this would impact any political party going forward. We also know that the fiscal deficit containment issues that the finance minister embarked on actually 4 or 5 months ago has already yielded some result, in that on credit rating watch we are looking for. Our stock markets showed the buoyancy and response that they should have, and this becomes important in view of the disinvestment calendar that government has, because without a buoyant stock market we are just not going to get the right prices for the crown jewels that we're going to disinvest, and it is those kinds of fundings which are ultimately going to support our expenditure program. If the corporate sector doesn't do well as a big taxpayer, we do not have growth, and you've seen that. The economic survey has already shown that this last year revenues were down, and one of the key reasons they've been down is that the corporate sector has not been as profitable as it has before. So we need, on the one hand, the prudence of right economic policy which gives us sustainable growth, and it is only sustainable growth which gives us the budget to spend.
Miss Naina Lal Kidwai, Mr. Mungekar of the Congress party has a comment on that. Mr. Mungekar, she's not wrong, because prudence, you know, it's a you are going to increase.
I fully appreciate. I am talking about the big picture that you are now discussing.
Yeah, big picture.
We are discussing only one aspect of prudence, that is axing the expenditure.
No,
there is another aspect of prudence, namely raising the revenue. During last 7 years, total tax revenue is staggering around 10% of the total GDP. Personal tax is just around 1.2% of the total GDP. Services are contributing 60% of the GDP.
It's your government which has been in power for 9 years.
My point only about the nature of the debate itself I am talking about. No, what we have to, why we are not
I don't think the problem here is Omkar and Meghna. 1 minute, let's go to experts. 1 minute, Omkar. I don't think the problem is identifying the problem. The problem is not being able to do anything about it. 1 minute, Meghna this side.
The thing is, we have known about the stagnation of tax revenue. Knowing that we have not had the same stagnation in expenditure. You know, we go on bouncing expenditure on and on, but we don't raise resources. And that's why we have a debt.
How you achieve
Omkar.
See, I think we haven't come to the situation that we have come to today out of the blue, right?
Of course.
The decline in fiscal discipline has been taking place over 3 years. It is now reached. Let me give you a simple point. Current account deficit that Naina talked about and Kiran talked about. Current account deficit today is the highest that India has had by a long shot. When in its history, forget history, in its recent history, and today until we clean these things up,
how will we?
No, I tell you why. You just have to. No, simple. You cannot. The time for fudging is over. The time for doing all manner of excuses is over.
But
we have to have a hard, clear, honest budget which says we spent too much and now I'm holding back.
Omkar, let me go back to Kiran. The fact is, it's all very well to say this, Kiran. The fact is, we are talking about cutting expenditure. A few months from now, the government may be in a position where it's forced to import food grains, because your demand for food grains will go up to such a sort of astonishing level, which we are not talking about today. We think the food subsidy bill will never actually happen. You will be in a position, you will have to actually import food grains to keep your food stock up. Your demand will go up to that point. Where is the prudence in that? Kiran, my point to you, where is the prudence in that? What are we doing to our economy, to our base in a pre-election year? Kiran, please.
Absolutely. Yeah, Arnab, you said it. I mean, first and foremost, I think if you look at what's happening in the food sector, you know, all these subsidies and SOPs that we've given to the agricultural sector has not yielded us the kind of results we want. As I mentioned earlier, there is going to be a decline in the output of food grains, and that's not a good sign at all. Instead of, you know, and you will have to find ways and means of cutting subsidy. How do we cut, are we going to cut fertilizer subsidies? Are we going to cut oil subsidies? No, I don't think they're going to do that, or if they do, well then kudos to them. But the fact of the matter is, I have always maintained that subsidies to the agricultural sector have to be, weaned down, because I think you do need to convert these subsidies into incentives and credit lines that focus on technology-driven productivity. We are not doing that right now. So, you know, I really believe that these are the kind of measures that need to be taken. Look at job creation. You know, 50% of jobs are still in agriculture. And how are we going to take jobs away from subsistence farming to industry jobs unless you have investment going on in the manufacturing sector? Cost of capital is too high in the manufacturing sector, which is why you're seeing, a lack of investment in, the manufacturing sector. So I think there are...
Arnab, despite all of this, I fully agree with what Kiran is saying. I think the solution lies in the Gujarat model. They have been able to attract industry despite a very negative India sentiment. They've been able to get CAGR on constant prices of 7% in agriculture. Now, all the issues that Kiran said, agriculture 7% growth at constant prices year on year for the last 10 years, industry booming over there, lowest unemployment in the country is in Gujarat. I think we have a situation, we have an example
is Modi being
where prudent economic policy can actually be implemented despite the doom and gloom that you have here.
No, 1 minute. Is Modi being announced as the chairman of the campaign committee when your national executive meets? Or will that be avoided now?
I don't do the announcements on times now. My national leaders will do that at the right and appropriate time.
You thought he announced it?
He has announced it just now.
I think you should take
You've accused him of announcing it.
Is that Piyush Goyal has just announced?
We have a single...
One minute, Piyush Goyal.
Recognize that.
Piyush Goyal has just announced
Piyush Goyal has
the
announced
reality that the Gujarat model is what BJP is going to run on, and that is because the Gujarat Chief Minister will be the campaign chairman.
Lord Desai, don't politicize it. The nation needs good politics and good economics.
No,
if
but
somebody is there to give it, why not accept it? Congress will
say Gujarat is not India, and for India there is a different model that
Can I be a little brutally direct here?
Yes.
At the risk of being chided and told off, I want to ask Nainalal Kidwai. Ms. Kidwai, I saw you smile as this debate goes on. Is industry worried about about continuity?
Yes.
Because when elections happen, then governments can change.
Arnab, I don't think industry is looking to elections as a break in terms of continuity. I think the issue really is now elections are still, in the corporate world, 1 year is a very long time. 1 year makes and breaks industries. And we need the here and now that needs to be sorted through. And Kiran is absolutely right when she points to agriculture and agricultural productivity needing attention as well. We may look at subsidies as a way to achieve what we want to achieve, but it's not getting us there. What we need is investment in productivity and technology. And frankly, we should also look at where we're spending money. You know that I have taken issue earlier as well on the fact that funding is going into supporting our shareholding in public sector banks who could actually go out and raise money very readily in the stock markets as our private sector banks have done and done very effectively. So isn't it time for us to look at why is taxpayer money going into sharing up 70% of the market share of public sector banks in our banking sector? Do we have to own that many banks and then put taxpayer money into that? And then what we have to give kudos to this government for.
India now.
But Parliament
speaking, Scooters India is going to get money because of this reform.
The countdown to Parliament begins. I want to thank Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw and Nainalal Kidwai. I think we put on some very comprehensive thoughts at that stage. Those are pictures there of Mr. Chidam.